largest international organizations of archaeologists, and it's open to various perspectives. In the 19th century and early 20th century, archaeology was mostly carried out from a Western perspective, and the Western countries had dominated all the other countries in the world. And so, but in the post-colonial times, there's been more interest among archaeologists in understanding, well, what are the perspectives on archaeology and human origins from other cultures and points of view besides the modern Western point of view. So I found these organizations to be open to these things, and I've been able to present papers at conferences organized by these academic and scientific organizations. So as I was saying a little bit earlier in the show, the world of science isn't monolithic. There are some fundamentalist Darwinist supporters of the current theories of human origins and antiquity who are very, very much opposed to what I do. They don't want to hear me. They don't want anybody else to hear me. But there are more open-minded scientists who may be supporters of the current theories, but they're at least willing to listen to alternatives. And it's scientists in that group who have invited me to speak at these institutions and organizations, who've accepted the papers that I propose to present at their conferences. But that's not the only audience that I try to reach. I think it's important to stay in touch with all types of audiences. So the academic and scientific world is one of my audiences. The general public is one of my audiences. And then I also speak to alternative science researchers who are interested in such things as UFOs and parapsychology and things of that sort. So I stay in touch with all kinds of audiences because I think everyone is looking for the truth. Everyone has a bit of the puzzle to put into the whole picture. And I don't want to limit myself to just a scientific or academic audience or just a spiritual audience or just a general public type of audience or just an alternative science type of audience. I like reaching out to all kinds of people.
That's great. I have a question for you, Michael. Suppose that the findings and discoveries that you've documented became complete public knowledge, also were integrated into academia. What would be different? Right now, it's at the edge of everything. But suppose it was at the core of everything. How would it change life for all of us, for everybody to really get it?
I think there would be major changes. Right now, the type of society and worldwide human civilization that we have is being determined by the sense of self that modern science gives us through the monopoly they have in the education system. And the sense of self that they give us is very materialistic. They tell us we are just robot chemical machines in competition with each other for survival. We are just evolved apes. They give a very materialistic concept of the self, so much so that even people who believe in God will just pray to God to help us increase our material production and consumption. So that most people in the world today think that the main purpose of human existence is to produce and consume more and more material things. This is the nature of our world today, and it has resulted in some progress, but it's also resulted in, practically speaking, destroying the environment. Because we're producing and consuming too much, we are poisoning the air, poisoning the land, poisoning the water, and because of these ideas that we're robot chemical machines in competition with each other for survival, there are intense levels of conflict in the world, of exploitation, and there's an economic system, and people with this mood of competition for survival sometimes take unfair advantage of others in the system. That's why we have a financial crisis, because certain people took advantage of the economic system to get more than what was their fair share at the expense of other people, causing employment and a lot of unemployment and a lot of financial distress for a lot of people while they were enriching themselves by unfair means through all kinds of schemes. And then we also see intense levels of conflict in the world, competing for control of scarce resources like oil and natural gas and things like that. Now, if the ideas that I'm talking about were more dominant, we would see a lot of changes because we would have a different concept of the self. We would understand we're not just machines made of matter. We are beings of pure consciousness, all coming from the same source. There's a source of all conscious beings. We're all coming from that same source. Therefore, we're all related to each other, and we're part of the same spiritual family, and we're meant to be cooperating with each other in producing our material necessities of life in the most simple, natural, and efficient way possible. If we did that, that would solve a lot of the problems that we're facing in the world today. It would bring our consumption of the Earth's material resources down to sustainable levels that don't degrade the environment with all the problems that creates.
Would we have a spiritual renaissance, if you will, if this were core knowledge?
Yes, and we would also see the intense levels of conflict begin to decrease in the world today, because now we see ourselves as competing with each other for survival instead of cooperating with each other, understanding that we're all coming from the same source, that we're all related to each other. So we see intense levels of competition in the world among individuals, among classes, among nations, among religions. That's all based on this competition model, that, competition for survival, that's taught by the Darwinian theory of evolution. So I think we would see the levels of conflict in the world decrease, the level of environmental degradation decrease. We would also see the level of financial exploitation decrease. We would see less financial crises as people learn to be satisfied with their fair share of the Earth's resources. Gandhi once said, there's enough on Earth for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. So if we had the idea that we're beings of pure consciousness and we started developing the resource of consciousness, then this would see a decrease in the levels of anger and greed that are now poisoning human society all over the world. We see the signs of it everywhere. So yes, there would be major changes.
But for example, by finding out that humans have been here for millions of years, what does that translate as? That fundamental new discovery to get that?
Well, what that means is we need new theories of human origins. It's not simply the fact that we've been here for millions of years that is going to change our way of life. But what that fact that human beings have been here for millions of years does, the evidence for that, it contradicts the current theories of human origins, and it means we need new theories of human origins. And if human beings have been here since the beginning, that means they had to have been put here. They didn't evolve because they've been here since the beginning. That means there had to have been some intelligence that put them here. It means that we're more than just accidents of evolution. It means we're more than just robot chemical machines in competition with each other for survival. For me, the human body or any other body is a vehicle for a soul. It's a vehicle for a conscious self. And this vehicle has a purpose. The purpose is to return the conscious self to its original home.